Greetings, everybody. On this video, we're going to discuss about a very important topic in writing scientific articles, the problem of choosing the right journal. Now, let's say you're a young researcher, possibly a master or young PhD student. Let's say you have prepared your own first publication, so you have written it down, it is ready for submission, and the problem comes up of choosing where to submit this publication, okay, this possible publication, okay, let's be right. So, how do we choose that? Now, of course, if you're a younger student, chances are that your own professor is going to choose that. Okay, because the problem is that when you're starting a PhD on a new topic, you don't have a very clear understanding of the field, of the journals, the various journals that uh, exist in your own field of research. You may have just a couple of journals in mind. So probably if you're a very young student, your own professor is going to guide you in choosing the right journal. But let's discuss about this problem in a more general way because as time goes by, you are trying to build yourself as an independent researcher. So in due time, you will have to choose your own journal for submission. So how can we do that? Okay. Uh, at start, we need to obtain a very clear view of the journals that exist in our field of research, whatever this is. Okay. Now, the best way to start doing so is by taking a look at the papers that we have already read. So obviously, since you have prepared your own publication, I'm sorry, paper for submission, you have probably read some papers already. So you have probably have a folder in your computer where you save all of the journals, all of the publications that you have read, right? Some of them may be conference publications. Most of them are going to be journal publications. So what you're going to do is you are going to create a Word file and then go inside your folder, and how many PDFs you may have, you open all of them. Okay. If you're a younger researcher, you may have just a couple, let's say 10 possible papers, but probably you're going to have much, much, much more because you don't read, as you all know, we don't usually read all of the papers that we download. We usually just browse through them. So you may have like 30, 40, 50, 100, or 200 PDF publications in your folder. You open up all of them and you make a list of all the journal names that are in all of those publications. Okay. So even if you have like 100 publications on the same topic, after listing all of the possible journals and different conferences, you're gonna end up with just, let's say, 10 or maybe around 20 different journal options. Okay. So immediately you get a list of all the basic or major journals that exist in your field. Now, ideally, after doing this list, you can also go into each individual journal's webpage and also note their impact factor and quartile rank. Now, I'm not going to discuss impact factors in this video. I have discussed them in a previous video. But basically, if they are a very high impact factor and if they have in rankings Q1, Q2, Q3, or Q4, right? So immediately you can get a list of journals with their impact factors and rankings. Okay. So this is your first list that you can use as guidance when choosing a right journal. After doing so with your own list of publications, with your own list of references, I would suggest do this also with the publications of your supervisor. So go to your supervisor's Scopus or Google Scholar page, take a look at all of their publications and also note their conferences and journals because this is very important. Obviously, you are following your supervisor in the topics that he has already published in. Now, after you can do that, you can start by obviously going towards the best journals from your list. So the ones with the highest impact factor and the ones with the highest ranking, Q1 or Q2 ideally. But obviously, you cannot submit to a very good journal if your topic is not very, very relevant. They may be on the same general topic, let's say control theory or let's say chaos theory, but they may be not entirely fit to that specific journal. So what you're going to do after you have already prepared, obviously, your submission, even if it is not entirely ready, let's say it's a draft that's 90% ready, you're going to go through the list of your own references. Okay, so here, for example, I have a publication from a previous paper. It is published on circuit systems and signal processing. So what I did when I had my draft ready, let's say it was 90% ready, and I had a reference list in my own draft, I took a look at my own list and I noted which journals appear most often. I was aiming at a journal publication, not a conference publication, so I ignored any conference references or any book chapter references and only focused on journals. Okay, so I realized that I had, let's say, 30, 40, 50 references in my paper. And of these references, some of these journals appeared again and again and again. So in my original Microsoft Word list, I had a list of some 30 references, 30 journals, and I realized that out of this list of journals, a couple of them appeared more than one in my reference list for my draft. So immediately, out of the 30 journals, I realized that a couple of, let's say, two or three journals appear a lot in my references, which is an indication that probably these journals publish a lot of relevant material. So these are the most obvious and most suitable options for my own draft, right? So here, for example, I realized that circuit systems and signal processing has a very close scope, so it is a very relevant possible choice for a journal. After I did so, and I ended up with, let's say, two or three or four possible journals, you can also look at some technical details. For example, how long do they take to publish, if they have publication charges. So, for example, a journal like IEEE Access has publication charges. So, if I don't have any funding, for example, I cannot submit there. So, you can also limit your options by taking into account, the impact factor, the publication charges, uh, the time it takes to obtain the first decision, and so on. So after you do all of this, you can end up with a couple of possible choices and that are, very good journals and are also very suitable journals. So then you can choose among these for your own submission. You can start by going towards uh, the highest impact journals, but also take into account the readability. So it's not about just publishing in the best possible journal. It also has to do with uh, aiming at the right community. So people from your own research community will be able to will be get notified about your paper and read your paper. Okay. So this for me is a list of possible steps that you can do towards obtaining a good understanding of the journals in your own field and the most relevant journals for your own specific manuscript. Okay. Also, there are other options that are available. For example, there's a very well-known website, the SciMago website. Here, it has a list of possible journals that are listed in Scopus as well. So you can search for journals and obtain some more information about them. So for example, here I searched for a very well-known journal, which is nonlinear dynamics. I'm giving this just as an example. It's from Springer. And I can immediately see some information about the quality of the journal. So for example, it tells me the H index of the journal. It tells me what categories the papers are published in. So for example, it has aerospace engineering, applied mathematics, mechanical engineering, and so on. I see that for the last year it was on a Q1 level, but I can also see that for almost a decade it has been consistently listed as a Q1 journal, and only for a few times it has been listed as a Q2 journal. So obviously this journal is a very high quality journal. And also it shows me similar journals. So I can use this list of similar journals to find other ones that maybe are not in my list that I have created. So I can get an even better understanding of the journals in my field. So for example, it has International Journal of Dynamics and Control. I happen to know this journal. It's a very good quality journal. It has Communications in Nonlinear Science and Numerical Simulation, which is another great journal. It has Chaos, Solitons, and Fractals, a very well-known journal. Journal of Applied Nonlinear Dynamics, Journal Bifurcation International Journal of Bifurcation and Chaos. So here I can understand that if I know already one journal, I can browse it through this website and obtain many information about other relevant journals, so I can enrich my list. And that's, I think, a very solid plan to get an understanding of what journals appear the most in your community, which are the most relevant ones, and which are the ones obviously that fit your specific manuscript. Okay, very straightforward. You are only going to spend, I would say, a couple of hours to finish up your own list and get an understanding of the field. And remember, before submitting, of course. Any of your co-authors must agree with your decision, and more importantly, your supervisor has to agree with your decision. As I said, if you're a very young researcher, probably your supervisor is going to guide you and choose the journal for you. But as the years pass, you need to grow into an independent researcher, so you will eventually have to choose the right journal for yourself. Okay, so very straightforward process. If you have any questions, feel free to write it in the comment, and I'll see you in the next video.